Imagine being the most feared delinquent in the entire city, only to suddenly decide that your biggest dream is getting into college. No one believes him. His classmates think he's lost his mind, his teachers panic, and even the school nurse treats it like a medical emergency. But there's a reason behind this insane decision. He made a promise to the woman he loves, and to keep that promise, he has to achieve something everyone believes is impossible. The problem is, studying will be the least of his worries. As he struggles to learn for the very first time, he gets dragged into a brutal war between schools, faces the strongest delinquents in the district, and turns libraries and classrooms into full-on battlefields. This is the story of the city's most notorious fighter, risking everything to become a college student. And trust me, this journey is far crazier than you could ever imagine. In the classroom, two students whisper about a classmate who is acting strangely and quiet. A girl overhears the conversation and recognizes they are talking about Choi Yongbeom, finding it weird that he might be sick. The student Choi Yongbeom is sitting at his desk with a serious expression and in absolute silence. His quiet behavior is so unusual that one of his classmates finds it creepier than normal. Suddenly, another boy slams his hand hard on the table, showing his total frustration with the situation. He stands up and yells at Choi Yongbeom to stop ruining the mood and say what is going on. The friend remembers that whenever Yongbeom was bored, he liked to play train with his classmates. He goes on to say that they even set up a karaoke machine for Yongbeom to sing for the whole school. Not understanding the reason for the silence, the boy yells once again, wanting to know what is wrong. Desperate, he grabs Yongbeom by the shoulders while another classmate cries in fear in the background. The friend keeps yelling, listing several crazy things that could have happened to Choi Yongbeom. Then he seems to have a sudden idea about what might have caused this change. He points at Yongbeom and says he must have created a YouTube channel and wants to clean up his image. Tired of hearing nonsense, Choi Yongbeom lands a solid hit right in the face of his talkative friend. The classmate falls to the floor, completely down for the count after taking the heavy strike from the main character. With a wide and somewhat creepy smile on his face, Choi Yongbeom finally breaks his silence. The other students are shocked and comment that he smiled, and that it is too late to clean up his image. Right after, Choi Yongbeom stands up and starts walking around the room, leaving everyone very anxious. His eyes glow red as he approaches a student and calls her a model student. The girl with glasses raises her head, startled by his approach, and answers with a shy yes. The classmates panic, thinking he is going to go after an innocent student for the first time. But instead of being aggressive, Choi Yongbeom just scratches the back of his neck, looking a bit awkward. Unexpectedly, he asks the girl how she manages to study properly. The entire room falls into total silence, with all the students completely frozen in surprise. The students stare in shock and without reacting to the bizarre scene happening right in front of them. One high-pitched scream of despair echoes from outside the school, interrupting the tense mood in the room. In an instant, his classmates are carrying Choi Yongbeom out of the room as if it were an emergency. His friend bursts into the infirmary, yelling for help and saying that Yongbeom is definitely sick. The nurse looks at the boy lying on the bed and comments that he seems to be perfectly fine. Desperate, the friend yells the real emergency and says that Yongbeom is interested in studying. Hearing this, the nurse's face turns into a mask of pure horror and panic. She goes into emergency mode and starts giving orders to prepare a medical procedure immediately. One of the students grabs a scalpel and asks if they should start by examining Yongbeom's head. Out of patience, Choi Yongbeom smacks his classmate and tells him to stop with that crazy idea. The scene shifts to the front of the school, showing a moment of calm after all the chaos. Back in the classroom, Yongbeom thinks that he only decided to study and does not understand why everyone is discouraging him. With an annoyed expression, he wonders if the fact that he wants to study is really that shocking. To his surprise, his friend answers out loud saying that yes, it is very shocking, which startles him. The friend introduces himself as Jo Chungshin and says that as a loyal follower, he can read his expressions. Choi Yongbeom turns his face and keeps wondering why studying is so shocking to everyone. Jo Chungshin continues his analysis and says that all of this is because Yongbeom is trying to do something he has never done. The main character reflects on this and wonders what he used to do to be so different. At that moment, a memory pops into his mind, showing his face with a somewhat menacing smile. He remembers that his main daily activity was simply getting into fights with other people. Yongbeom then thinks about using his fighting talent to get into college, but his friend shuts the idea down. Jo Chungshin, still confused by the situation, asks why he suddenly wants to go to college so badly. The boy falls silent for a moment as his gaze gets lost in a memory from the past. His facial expression subtly changes as he remembers the real reason behind his decision. In his mind, he sees himself in a flowery park, standing in front of a girl slightly older than him. He remembers calling the young woman Nuna, an affectionate term used for older women. In this memory, Yongbeom confesses his feelings and asks the girl to marry him, promising that no one would ever hurt her. The young woman, in turn, seems to ignore the proposal and simply turns to walk away without saying anything. With a smile, she asks if he, a simple high school student, was really confessing to her. She then starts listing the problems of dating a younger boy like him, not being able to drink alcohol. The woman seems to think for 1 second with a smile on her face before giving her final answer. Yongbeom stares at the young woman expectantly as she prepares to make an unexpected proposal. She says that if he manages to get into the same college as her, then maybe she will consider his request. The memory ends with the main character's face heating up as he remembers the promise he made. Back in the present, Yongbeom yells that when he says he is going to do something, he follows through and tells his friend to shut up. Jakushin gets startled by the reaction and looks at the model student, wondering if this is all for love. The student with glasses trembles with fear at the intensity of the scene while Yongbeom's friend stares at her. Gathering all her courage, the model student offers to help Yongbeom study if he wants. With his eyes shining with happiness, the main character asks if she is serious and gets very excited about the idea. To his surprise, the girl shakes her head and says that it is impossible, leaving Yongbeom confused. She explains that being a model student does not mean being good at everything, especially in that chaotic school. The student then reveals that apart from 2 elective subjects, all the rest of her grades are at level 6. The girl says she can only help him in ethics and beliefs, and society and culture, because in those she has a grade 1. Jo Chung-shin translates it into fighting terms, saying she can only teach stand-up fighting but not ground fighting. Yongbeom gets annoyed by the complicated explanation, but his friend asks him to calm down so they can learn one thing at a time. Jo Chung-shin then asks if they should learn the rest from the teachers, but the girl thinks it is impossible. She explains that the school's teachers are useless, and their bad reputation drives away any good tutor. His friend then suggests they look for another student in the school who is good at Korean, English, and math. The student states that she is already number 1 in the school, so there is no one else there who can help them. Completely hopeless, Jo Chung-shin yells for Yongbeom to give up because he has already done his best. In a fit of despair, the friend grabs him tightly, yelling that he cannot breathe anymore. But the girl with glasses interrupts him, saying that there is still one way to get help. She reinforces that the problem is the lack of a good enough tutor available within their school. With a confident smile, the student suggests they can find a tutor at another school. Yongbeom looks thoughtful upon hearing the suggestion and repeats the idea of another school to himself. The scene shifts to a view of the city with its buildings and a blue sky, indicating that a new search is about to begin. The trio arrives at an unknown place and Yongbeom tries to figure out where they might be at that moment. They look at a large, modern building, and the main character wonders if that is a library. While Yongbeom is amazed to see a library for the first time, Jo Chung-shin acts as if his body is rejecting the place. The model student explains that they are in the Gangbuknam district, home to the 4 worst schools in the region. A map shows the 4 schools, including theirs, and the girl says that the students there have no interest in studying. Even so, she claims that there are still people dedicated to their studies, even a place like that. She starts by saying that Gangnambuk School has the best student in Korean, while she is the best in social studies. Continuing with the explanation, she shares that Salmon School has the best English student in the entire district. And lastly, she reveals that Chuensa School is home to the best math student among all of them. With a serious look, the girl says that if Yongbeom really wants to study, he will need their help. She then points to the library and says that their first target, the Korean student, is right there. With a little hope, the main character asks if, with their help, he will finally be able to go to college. The student with glasses smiles and confirms that with the help of the other girls, his chances will increase a lot. Yongbeom's gaze becomes determined as he realizes that this is his only chance to reach his goal. With his decision made, he turns to his friends and asks if they are ready to start the mission. He cracks his knuckles with a confident smile on his face and says it is time to get a new tutor. They approach a quiet room where a sign on the door asks everyone to keep quiet. Without thinking twice, the main character throws the door open and yells, asking for someone to teach him Korean. His friends scold him, saying he needs to be quiet in a library because the place has rules. Jo Chung-shin observes the environment with a tense expression, as if analyzing enemy territory. Inside the study room, 2 guys are relaxing, playing on their phones and smoking peacefully. At another table, older guy has a girl sitting on his lap while she takes a selfie. The main character's friend comments that the place does not seem very suitable for those who truly want to study. But even in the middle of the mess, they find a girl focused on her studies and deduce that she is their target. Yongbeom approaches and orders the girl to become his Korean tutor, but his friends scold him. The student with band-aids on her face looks up for 1 second and stares at the group approaching her. She looks annoyed by the interruption but goes back to focusing on her book, completely ignoring the request. The main character gets furious about being ignored, but Jokshin tries to calm him down, saying he will talk to her. Yongbeom suddenly notices something strange on the student's desk, and his eyes lock onto her books. He notices she is solving several copies of the exact same workbook and wonders if that is the secret. Jo Chung-shin also notices that the names written on the notebooks are all different, just like the handwriting. The student seems to be suffering while studying, and Yongbeom wonders if this is a secret study method. Suddenly, a hand slams hard on the next table, startling everyone with the sudden noise. A blonde girl who was sleeping yells at the other student to shut up and get out of there. Yongbeom is surprised and speechless at the aggressive attitude of the blonde student who just woke up. In his mind, he complains that the girl is being way louder than him but tries to control himself. The dark-haired student cringes at the yelling while the blonde girl stands up with an annoyed expression. The blonde girl approaches the other student with a threatening look and gets ready to start a fight. The student with band-aids glares back and angrily asks if the other girl has lost her mind. The blonde loses her patience and grabs the other girl's hair, yelling and starting a commotion in the library. The group watches the fight and Yongbeom asks what is happening right in front of them. The blonde girl threatens the other student and asks if it is that hard to keep her mouth shut. The guys watching comment that words will not work with the girl and suggest a new kind of lesson. The blonde girl, who is called So Young, yells that she prefers the traditional way of handling the situation. Then So Young gives the other student a heavy slap on the face and says she needs to teach her a lasting lesson. One of the boys laughs loudly and praises the aggression, saying that tradition is great and the sound was crisp. The dark-haired student glares at So Young with a cold look full of anger after being hit. But suddenly, So Young is interrupted by someone and her angry expression turns into surprise. A hand tightly grabs her blonde hair, showing that someone decided to step into the fight. With a dark look, Yongbeom says that the library rule was for everyone to be quiet. He pulls So Young's hair hard, causing several strands to come loose and fly through the air. So Young's friends stand up in shock and scream her name when they see the scene unfold. The Korean tutor is completely shocked and frozen, watching what the main character is doing. So Young puts her hands on her head and screams in despair when she realizes he just ripped out some of her bangs. One of her friends gets furious and asks if Yongbeom wants to get wrecked, while the other recognizes the main character. The guy explains to his friend that he is Yongbeom, the tyrant who turned the district into a complete nightmare. The other remembers the story of a guy who got obsessed with a webtoon about punishing bad students. In a memory, the main character is shown taking down several delinquents in a dark city alley. The memory continues, showing the image of a powerful strike that Yongbeom landed on someone in the past. Another scene from 1 year ago shows a speeding student riding his motorcycle down the street. Yongbeom jumps on the moving motorcycle, surprising the rider, who has no idea what is happening. He then pulls out a sound meter and says that the motorcycle's noise is an offense and he needs to punish bad students. The flashback ends with Yongbeom landing a precise hit on the loud motorcycle student. Back in the present, So Young's friend tenses up as he remembers the main character's terrible reputation. Even so, he grabs a baseball bat and says he will use this as an excuse to finish Yongbeom off. The guy approaches threateningly and asks if Yongbeom is begging to be completely destroyed. The main character simply stares at him with a bored expression, not caring at all about the threat. Then he ignores the guy with the bat and turns to the dark-haired girl to talk to her. With a calm voice, Yongbeom asks once again if she could please teach him how to study. The student stays quiet for a moment, her face full of bandages, surprised by his attitude. Not understanding the situation, she asks why someone like him, known as a brawler, would want to study. While the enemy prepares to attack, the main character begins to answer the girl's question. With a slight smile, he turns and says the reason is simple, and that he needs to go to college. The student looks at him seriously and asks what she would get in return if she decided to help him. Yongbeom admits he has no money to pay for the classes, but he has something else to offer. He gets into a stance for the fight that is about to start, bracing for the commotion in the library. With an intense look, he promises that if she helps him, he will take down anything in her way. Having said that, he turns around and lands a devastating strike that shatters the enemy's baseball bat. The other delinquents in the room stand up with improvised weapons to attack the main character together. Yongbeom starts keeping his promise and attacks the first guy, saying he will destroy anyone. Next, he goes after another guy, saying he will take down anything that steps in front of him. While fighting, he promises the girl he will handle anything that gets in the way of her studies in the future. He extends his fist toward the student with a smile and asks if she accepts his crazy proposal. The Korean tutor is shocked by the offer and Yongbeom asks if they have a deal. She checks if he really wants her to help him study, and the main character says yes, absolutely. The girl looks at the delinquent on the floor and seems to think about the proposal he made. After a moment of silence, she swallows hard and seems to have made a decision on the matter. To Yongbeom's surprise, she holds out her phone toward him without saying a single word. She then asks him to put his number in her phone and says she will call him later. So Young's friend is still on the floor, groaning in pain after the lesson he got from the main character. With a bruised face and full of anger, he grits his teeth and insults Yongbeom under his breath. The scene then shifts to the front of the main character's school, which is called Imile High School. Back at his school, Yongbeom's classmates are excited and playing around in the hallways. The main character is back to his normal self, playing train with a very happy Jo Chung-shin. The friend asks if he is having fun and Yongbeom smiles widely, showing his happiness. But the playing is cut short when Jo Chung-shin notices someone approaching them. The Korean tutor is in the school hallway, and Yongbeom asks what she is doing there. She says she came to help him and does not mind skipping class because her school does not check attendance. The main character blushes a little and jokes, saying she seems pretty eager to see him. The girl gets angry and calls him a weak nobody, and Yongbeom finds her reaction very funny. Shortly after, they arrive at an empty classroom to start their first lesson together. A notebook is placed on the desk, marking the beginning of our main character's study journey. The dark-haired student sits down and, with a serious expression, says it is time to study. Choi Yongbum and his friend Jong Shin get expressions of pure panic upon hearing the word study. Jo Chung-shin whispers that he can handle the tutor, but the main character tells him to back off. The girl gets annoyed and says they asked for help, but do not seem prepared for it at all. She climbs onto his desk and explains that studying is something you force yourself to do, even when you have zero desire. He asks which university she wants to get into, and she replies it is Seoul National University. Then Yongbum asks about her grades, and she says she does not know, which makes the main character pretty annoyed. Jo Chung-shin jumps into the conversation and starts listing the tutor's terrible grades in all subjects. The friend continues the analysis, saying she can only read, but her English and math are at a second grade level. He also reveals he knows the color of Yongbum's underwear, which makes the main character very angry. The tutor sighs and says Seoul University is out of the question, and he suggests a local university. With a smile, she asks if he only knows about Seoul University and the local universities. Choi Yongbum is shocked and wants to know if there are other kinds of universities besides those two. The girl is speechless at his level of ignorance, and her eye starts twitching with nerves. She gives up, saying he is beyond saving, and stands up, but Yongbum calls her Guk-yu and apologizes. At that moment, the model student appears and grabs Guk-yu's hand, stopping her from leaving the room. The student with glasses then quotes a phrase about dreams coming from hope and the heart, not from reason. She gets excited and says the Dostoevsky quote was perfect, just as expected from an ethics student. Guk-yu snaps back, saying guys like them only have a heart but lack the brains to think. Suddenly, her phone starts buzzing, indicating she is receiving a new call. The girl watches the phone screen light up with a serious and slightly worried expression. On the screen, a threatening message from someone asks if she thinks running away from school solves anything. Guk-yu stays quiet for a moment, with her hair covering her face in a tense expression. She then grabs her backpack and says she did not expect much from him, and that they should start with the basics. With a determined look, the Korean tutor says that despite everything, she is going to help him study. Choi Yongbum smiles from ear to ear, hearing the confirmation from his new teacher. He excitedly steps closer to her and says she is the first teacher who has not given up on him yet. The main character bows, and with great enthusiasm, says he is in her hands no matter what happens. Guk-yu gets awkward with the closeness and yells at him to step back a little because he is too close. The scene shifts to So-young's school, where the girl and her friends are plotting their revenge. A modern school building is shown, indicating the place where the blonde girl studies and plans her attack. With her hands trembling with anger, she stares at the threatening text she sent Guk-yu earlier. So-young wonders how she is going to ruin Guk-yu for completely ignoring her text message. She thinks about going after the girl and figures she must be with the guys from Imyo High again. The blonde girl touches her forehead, angrily remembering the students who humiliated her the day before. She yells at her friends, telling them to do something and asking if they have no shame. One of the guys with a bruised face tells her to stop complaining because they are just as angry as she is. So, Young does not accept the answer and yells that they cannot simply accept the humiliation they suffered. The friend then says Guk-yu has disappeared and asks if that does not give a clue about who is going to act next. So, Young catches onto the plan, and a malicious smile appears on her face as she thinks about her payback. She remembers the tough guy from her school, a guy named Kwak Chol-woo, who has a dragon tattoo. Kwak Chol-woo, with a tattoo on his neck, gets angry that Choi Yongbum touched what belongs to him. With a dark look, he says that with all this mess, he can no longer just sit around doing nothing. Back at Imyo High, the first study session is about to begin with everyone gathered together. The image shows a Korean test with a big red grade, indicating a terrible result. On another part of the test, a grade of 7, also in red, shows the student's poor performance on the exam. The model student Guk-yu analyze Yongbum's grades and are shocked by how low they are. The student with glasses with a drop of sweat on her face asks Guk-yu what his level is in Korean. The tutor explains that with his current grades, he could only get into colleges with leftover spots. Jo Chung-shin celebrates the fact that Yongbum can go to college, and the model student finds the praise weird. Guk-yu says she noticed something strange about Yongbum, and the other girl asks curiously what it could be. She shows the test and points out that he got the first 7 questions right in a row without missing a single one. The girls wonder how he managed it, and Jo Chung-shin says Yongbum found the questions easy. Guk-yu then asks why he did not solve the rest, and the friend says he got sleepy and fell asleep. The tutor is surprised and asks if he would have solved more if he had not fallen asleep, giving a time frame. Jo Chung-shin says that is impossible, leaving the girl confused and not understanding why. The friend explains that Yongbum is like a lion and needs a lot of sleep to be able to function properly. He goes on to say that his friend would probably end up falling asleep standing up if he tried to solve everything. The girl suggests giving caffeine to Yongbum, but Jo Chung-shin says he would just sleep with more energy. The model student runs out of options and asks exactly when Choi Yongbum is able to focus. Jo Chung-shin takes a dramatic pause and prepares to reveal the secret of the main character's focus. With a serious look, he leans in to whisper the answer into the ears of the girls who are waiting. He gets closer and whispers the secret information, leaving both students completely in shock. Yongbom's loyal friend reveals the secret to his friend's focus, leaving the girls speechless. The answer is that the only time the main character can focus is when he is fighting. At that exact moment, Choi Yongbom raises his head, and his gaze is serious and fully awake. He stares at the classroom door and warns everyone that the enemies have finally reached them. Outside, a group of delinquents led by Kwak Chol Woo yells Choi Yongbom's name. With a threatening look, Kwak Chol Woo orders the main character to hand Guk-yo over to him immediately. Inside the room, Guk-yo trembles with fear hearing the voice of the guy who came after her at school. The main character looks at the girl's reaction and begins to understand the situation unfolding. He realizes that Kwak Chol Woo is the real reason she was so tense the entire time. Yongbom warns his group that the enemies are approaching and gets ready for the clash. Outside, Kwak Chol Woo and his gang walk toward the school, yelling for Yongbom. The group leader repeats his demand and orders the main character to hand Guk-yo over to him right now. Guk-yo remains paralyzed with fear, sitting in her chair unable to move or say anything. The main character stares at the girl, and his expression turns serious as he confirms the source of her fear. Yongbom then asks her if Kwak Chol Woo is the reason she has been so tense. One of the invaders breaks the classroom window with an iron pipe, starting the attack. Another delinquent kicks the classroom door hard to clear the way for the rest of the group to enter. The school principal tries to intervene, but the students ignore him and tell him to get out of their way. Kwak Chol Woo stares at the principal and asks if the students at that school don't value their safety. Jo Chung-shin stands up and bravely faces the invaders, telling them to get out of there. Kwak Chol Woo shoots a cold, threatening look at the main character's friend without flinching. The principal tries to encourage his students to fight, but Jo Chung-shin tells him to stay out of it. So, Young and her friend who got beaten earlier watch the scene, angry at the Imile school students. The blonde girl approaches Kwak Chol Woo and asks if he is going to let the enemies get away. Chol Woo says he does not want to escalate the mess, but his friend points out he already did exactly that. With a dangerous look, the gang leader says things change when someone messes with him. He glares at Choi Yongbom and says that if someone tries to steal what is his, the situation is completely different. With a creepy smile, Kwak Chol Woo asks Yongbom not to interfere with his love for Guk-yo. The main character is surprised and speechless upon hearing the word love coming from his new enemy. Suddenly, Kwak Chol Woo hugs Yongbom tightly, leaving the main character even more confused. He says that as a man he supports Yongbom's love, but his expression shows that something is wrong. In a quick motion, Chol Woo uses the hug to set up a move and attack the main character. With a yell, he says he cannot hand over Guk-yo and applies a wrestling move on Yongbom. The main character is thrown hard to the floor, groaning in pain from the totally unexpected attack. Kwak Chol Woo steps back after the strike, and the big fight between the two is finally about to start. With his face red with anger, Kwak Chol Woo yells and insults Choi Yongbom with all his might. One of So Young's friends then gives the order and tells all his allies to attack at once. On the other side, Jo Chung-shin and the Imile students yell that this was exactly what they wanted. The two gangs finally clash, and a massive battle begins right in the middle of the school hallway. But suddenly, a female voice yells for everyone to stop, and the fight is interrupted in that very instant. In the middle of the chaos, Guk-yo slowly starts walking toward the center of the massive brawl. Jo Chung-shin is confused, wondering if time has stopped, and recognizes the girl approaching. The Korean tutor keeps walking with a serious expression on her face, ignoring all the mess. The school hallway is completely trashed, with broken glass and pieces of the wall all over the floor. With a determined yet sad look, Guk-yo asks once again for them to stop fighting. She then announces that she is going to transfer schools and asks them not to fight over her anymore. In a memory, she recalls the day Kwak Chol Woo confessed to her, saying he liked her. Back then, the girl was surprised by the popular guy's very direct and unexpected confession. After that, he started getting closer to her in the classroom, completely changing the girl's routine. The other girls, including So Young, started approaching and praising Guk-yo all the time. Her life at school got easier, but she knew something was wrong even though no one was hurting her. That peace did not last long, and she says her life fell apart when others asked for her help studying. In her flashback, she asks Kwak Chol Woo why he took her to an unfamiliar building. He answers that he borrowed the place from a friend and tells her not to worry about cameras. Guk-yo feels uncomfortable and says they have only known each other for 1 month and are not even dating. She then turns to leave and asks him not to call her out on dates like that anymore. Upon being rejected, Kwak Chol Woo's expression changes completely and his face fills with anger. He forcefully grabs her arm and stops her from leaving the place, making the girl scream in pain. With his head down, he says her attitude put him in a very embarrassing situation. He threatens her, saying he will see how long she can play hard to get with him. The memory continues with Guk-yo returning to the classroom after her encounter with Chol Woo. As soon as she enters, an egg is thrown at her head, dirtying all her hair and her uniform. Next, one of her classmates trips her, dropping her to the floor in front of everyone. Fallen and humiliated, she does not understand what is going on while the rest of the class just watches. So Young and another girl laugh at the scene, finding the whole situation very funny and amusing. Guk-yo asks why they are acting that way all of a sudden and what she did wrong. One of the girls then shows her a phone screen, revealing the reason for the attack. Gokyo is in shock seeing the picture being displayed on the device the classmate is holding. On the phone, a photo shows her and Kwak Chol Woo together in front of that building earlier. So Young steps closer and asks if she had fun being the queen bee all this time. With a malicious smile, the blonde girl says Gokyu's time is up and she is doomed. The narrator explains that Kwak Chol Woo's obsession only got worse and she felt like giving up completely. Even so, she thought she could endure it because there was less than 1 year left of high school. In a terrible scene, the girl is shown tied up and gagged, showing the level of abuse she endured. Back in the present, she thinks that if others are going to suffer for her, it is best to simply drop everything. With an expression of pure determination, Gokyo faces the chaos happening right in front of her. She takes one step forward, decided to take a stand and put an end to that situation once and for all. The girl then walks through the middle of the fight and stops right in front of Choi Yongbeom and his enemy. Kwak Chol Woo smiles a creepy, sick smile when he sees the reaction of the girl he chases. Jo Chungshin and the model student panic, thinking she's going to give up on everything and leave. The main character then moves and stands right in front of Gokyo, stopping her from leaving the spot. Yongbeom watches her in silence for a moment, trying to understand what is going through her head. He calls her name and the girl stops walking instantly, as if she had been caught off guard. With a serious voice, he asks if giving up and walking away is really what she wants to do right now. With tears in her eyes, the student asks herself what she really desires for her future. From afar, Kwak Chol Woo yells and furiously runs toward her, trying to grab her by force. He yells that she has already made up her mind and knows full well there is no escaping him. Gokyo looks back, terrified by his approach and by the threats he keeps yelling. She grits her teeth hard, feeling a mix of fear and anger take over her body. In an almost inaudible whisper, she grabs Yongbeom's clothes and asks him to save her. With her face covered in tears, the girl finally begs for Choi Yongbeom's help to escape. Kwak Chol Woo explodes in a fit of rage hearing her plea for help directed at his rival. The tough guy's face twists into a mask of pure hatred upon realizing she chose the other guy. Before he can get close, Yongbeom lands a devastating punch squarely in Chol Woo's face. So Young screams her leader's name in despair, seeing him attacked so suddenly. The model student is surprised to notice that Jo Chungshin is trembling with fear next to her. He explains that trembling is his signature move and that he cannot help it in tense situations. Jo Chungshin then says with a serious look that it has been a long time since he last saw that scene. He is referring to the exact moment when Choi Yongbeom gets incredibly angry and serious. The other students in the school realize the danger and comment that they need to get out of there as fast as possible. Yongbeom takes off his jacket and, with a dark aura, tells everyone to be quiet because judgment is about to begin. He declares that Kwak Chol Woo and his gang are culprits accused of insulting and slandering his love. The enemy leader gets angry at the speech and orders his men to take him down and bring Gokyo. The main character keeps listing the group's offenses, like trying to steal Gokyo and harassing her. One of the delinquents rushing in for the attack is met with a precise strike right in the middle of his face. Yongbeom then declares that for all the wrongs they committed, the final sentence is total elimination. With incredible reflexes, he dodges a surprise attack coming from behind without even looking. He then spins his body and lands a powerful kick on the enemy's chest, sending him flying from the impact. The guy hit by the kick is shocked by the absurd strength of the blow he just took. Yongbeom turns around and faces the group's leader, preparing to deliver the final punishment to Kwak Chol Woo. The main character says that for the leader of the attackers, the penalty will be a severe physical lesson. Kwak Chol Woo, fallen on the ground, imagines his father saying goodbye to him as if he were at the end of his days. One tear rolls down his eye, and in his mind, he hears his father mourning the loss of his son. Yongbeom then steps up and lands a devastating final strike on his enemy who is on the ground. The main character follows up his attack with a direct hit right below the belt on Kwak Chol Woo. Yongbeom's classmates are shocked and say that hitting a guy there is crossing the line. With a sinister smile, Choi Yongbeom answers that it is fine because his tough guy days are over. Without giving the enemy time to breathe, the boy smacks him right in the face with a notebook. Kwak Chol Woo's face is wrecked, and an onlooker gets scared seeing that he has been defeated. With the impact of the blow, the bully falls to his knees, completely devoid of strength to continue. Then he lets out a high-pitched, squeaky scream of pain that echoes throughout the school hallway. The model student and Jo Chungshin are confused by the sound and wonder why he is screaming like that. Jo Chungshin has a moment of clarity and seems to understand what is happening to the enemy. He concludes that the high-pitched scream was because his testosterone levels dropped drastically. One of Kwak Chol Woo's friends makes a disgusted face upon hearing his leader's weird scream. The enemy gang panics upon realizing their leader lost and that they are now doomed. Lying on the floor, Chol Woo thinks about how extremely shameful this whole situation is for him. He decides he needs to get up right now and finish Yongbeom off to save his honor. But when he tries to move, he realizes his body is not obeying due to the intense pain. With no other choice, the tough guy decides he needs to postpone the fight and retreat to fight another day. He then calls out to Choi Yongbeom, who turns to hear what the enemy has to say. Kwak Chol Woo stands up and swears he will never give up on Gokyo and will love her until the very end. The main character stares at him with disgust and asks if he wants him to take him out once and for all. With tears of anger and pain, Cho Woo proposes that they make a bet to settle everything. He suggests a showdown next week where the grand prize of the fight will be Gukyu herself. The girl is shocked and furious to hear that she is being treated as a mere object. Yongbom's friends are annoyed by the ridiculous bet and do not understand why they should accept. Kwak Cho Woo says the bet would also be better for the main character's group and explains why. He argues that Yongbom won with a cheap shot and that his gang will not accept the defeat. According to him, the conflict will go on forever with them chasing Gukyu or Yongbom's group. Cho Woo then proposes they settle the rivalry once and for all in a proper way. The bet would be a one-on-one fight strictly between him and Cho Yongbom, with no one else involved. The enemy promises that if he loses the fight, he will back off and never bother them again. Yongbom stares at his opponent in silence, with his strong physique ready for any challenge. Gukyu tightly grips her own arm, showing her concern about the outcome of the bet. The image of the school is shown while the word deal indicates that Yongbom accepted the proposal. Back in the classroom, the mood gets tense as they discuss the next steps of the plan. The model student shakes nonstop and makes weird noises, showing all her nervousness. Jo Chungshin asks what is wrong, and she says she is worried but too scared to speak up. Yongbom assures her she has no need to worry because he is going to win anyway, and his friend agrees. Jo Chungshin says delinquents should be handled by their own rules and that a defeat would silence him. But the model student is still worried and asks when Yongbom is going to study with all this mess. The main character gets annoyed by the question and tells her to decide what she wants him to do. Gukyu keeps her head down in silence, unable to say a word about the matter. Gukyu asks Cho Yongbom if he is sure he can win the fight, and he confirms it. With that, she decides to get back to studying, and the model student panics at her apparent calm. The tutor explains that since Yongbom trusted her to be his teacher, she needs to trust him. The main character listens to the girl's words with a serious expression and his arms crossed. With a slight smile, Gukyu says that besides trusting him, this situation might have a silver lining. She believes that all this commotion might actually help improve the boys' grades. The scene shifts to the front of Gangnambuk High, where the Wajard fight is happening soon. Kwak Chol, whose friend praises him for recovering so quickly from the beating he took. He comments that the gang leader got back in peak shape with just 1 week of rest. The guy corrects himself and says maybe Kwak Chol Woo is even stronger than before. Still, he wonders if Chol Woo will be able to defeat the legendary Cho Yongbom. The gang leader, showing off his tattoos, stares at him in silence with a threatening look. He grabs his buddy by the collar and angrily asks what is the problem with his eyes. Kwak Chol Woo says that if he wants something, he never quits until he gets what he craves so much. He claims that no matter how long it takes, in the end, he will always be the big winner. The friend reminds him they agreed to fight only one time, but Chol Woo does not care. With an evil smile, he says he can change his mind and that the fight is only over when he wins. Suddenly, So Young bursts into the room and warns them that something is happening outside the school. The blonde girl yells that the students from Imyo High are invading their turf right now. In the school courtyard, Cho Yongbom and his group prepare for the showdown that is about to begin. The main character glares at his opponent with a determined look, ready for the decisive fight. Kwak Cho Woo, with a psycho smile on his face, says Yongbom finally made it to the spot. So, Young and her leader look out the window and wonder what the enemies are doing there. The answer is that right in the middle of the school courtyard, the Imyo students set up a classroom. Cho Yongbom is sitting at a desk as if he were ready to have a normal class. The enemy gang is shocked and wonders if by any chance they are there to study instead of fight. Gukyu asks Jo Chungshin if this is really the right move, and he answers that there is no time for doubts. The tutor points out that fighting wakes him up, but he falls asleep if he solves more than 7 questions at once. She thinks that if that is the case, the solution to his sleeping problem is pretty simple. Gukyu concludes they just need to fight every time he solves 7 questions to keep him awake. Jo Chungshin freaks out at the idea and says this would put Yongbom in constant danger. But the tutor states he is in no position to be picky, and if there is no set path. She firmly says they need to create a new path themselves to reach their goal. The main character hears the plan, and a small smile forms in the corner of his mouth, showing he likes it. Right after finishing the 7th question, Yongbom face plants on the desk, completely asleep. Jo Chungshin is impressed by the accuracy and notes that he fell asleep after exactly 7 questions. Yongbom's friend spots Kwak Chol Woo charging in to attack his sleeping buddy. The enemy sprints at top speed toward the main character, screaming his name with sheer rage. With his face twisted by hate, Kwak Chol Woo yells and demands Yongbom hand over Gukyu to him. Jo Chungshin tries desperately to wake his friend up so he can defend himself from the attack. Gukyu swallows hard and stares at the battlefield with a look of pure determination on her face. Lying on the desk, Cho Yongbom mumbles in his sleep and drools all over his workbook. Kwak Chol Woo takes the opening and rushes to land a kick to the sleeping main character's head. But to his total shock, his attack is blocked at the very last second by something totally unexpected. Still asleep, Yongbom used his own workbook to shield himself from the enemy's kick. The impact of the blow makes him slowly stand up with the book still open in front of him. He stares at the pages of the notebook as if amazed by what just happened. With a huge smile on his face and a mark on his forehead, he says he is completely wide awake now. The cycle repeats, and after another 7 questions, the boy passes out again on top of his desk. Wasting no time, Kwak Chol-woo sprints once more to attack the main character while he is asleep. With his face red with rage, he yells and demands Choi Yongbum hand Gukyu over to him. Yongbum gets up once again, impressed at being woken up in such an efficient way. With a smile and bright eyes, he excitedly yells that he is totally awake again. Chol-woo tries attacking with a chair, but the main character defends himself using his own desk. The attacker gets furious and yells that a cheap trick like that will not work on him. He then manages to land a powerful punch on Yongbum's face while he was focused on his studies. The main character stumbles back, surprised by the solid hit he took while studying. Kwak Chol-woo seizes the chance and lands a heavy uppercut that lifts Yongbum off the ground from the impact. The main character's friends are terrified to see him taking a beating and fear the plan has failed. Even Kwak Chol-woo's allies are surprised by the scene and watch the fight closely. The attacker stands up panting and tells himself he finally managed to defend against the attack. But Yongbum gets up and apologizes, saying he did not mean to take a hit that time. With tears in his eyes, Chol-woo reveals that everything he has done so far was out of love for Gukyu. He remembers when he saw her for the first time and thought she was like a flower in the middle of trash. With a teary face, he says he wanted to make her his, but the feeling went way beyond that. The boy actually wanted to become someone like her, a dedicated and smart person like Gukyu. In his mind, he pictures a perfect study room he would have set up to learn Korean. But he remembers that back then, the girl treated him as if he were just a random bug, and now he cannot accept that she is willing to tutor someone like Yongbum. Kwak Chol-woo yells he will never forgive her and will wreck everything and everyone in his path. Consumed by anger, he charges at Choi Yongbum for one final desperate attack. The attacker winds up a punch with all his strength to try and finish off his rival once and for all. But the main character blocks the strike easily, surprising his enemy with his calm demeanor. Yongbum then counters the precise hit that lands squarely on Kwak Chol-woo's face. He follows up with a flurry of quick, accurate strikes that hit the opponent's body. The main character finishes the combo with a heavy hit to the enemy's back, leaving him unable to react. Next, he lands one more strike on Chol-woo's face, making him look like he might pass out any second. Yongbum's face is bruised, but he stays on his feet and stands firm after taking a few hits. The model student is amazed by his strength, and Jo Chungshin says it is totally natural. He explains their district is the worst of all, and Yongbum proved his worth as the top guy. The model student gets worried and asks if there is any chance Yongbum might lose the fight. Jo Chungshin admits there is, but says that at the end of the day, the main character is definitely going to win. With a confident smile on his face, he gets ready to reveal his friend's true secret. He explains that Yongbum is a natural glutton for punishment who loves taking hits during a good fight. And most importantly, he gets stronger and stronger the more strikes he takes. Kwak Chol-woo notices the main character is laughing and gets even more irritated by the situation. He moves in for the attack and says he will see how long that smile lasts on his face. The attacker then unleashes a rapid series of punches to Choi Yongbum's body. But the main character simply blocks the hits with a satisfied smirk on his face. With a look of pure amusement, he says this fight is turning out to be really fun for him. Jo Chungshin gets hyped and yells that the real fight is going to start from this moment on. He reveals that when Yongbum gets excited, his attack power goes up by 500%. In the blink of an eye, Yongbum blocks Chol-woo's punch with a terrifying calm. He then grabs him and slams him to the ground with brutal force that cracks the courtyard concrete. Kwak Chol-woo lies on the ground in shock, wondering what just happened to him. He cannot figure out where all that sudden strength from his opponent came from. Yongbum gets on top of him, gearing up to end the fight once and for all. He then begins to unleash a flurry of heavy hits straight to Kwak Chol-woo's face. The beatdown continues mercilessly with another strike landing perfectly on the enemy's face. And yet another hit connects, showing off the immense strength of our beloved main character. The rapid-fire strikes do not stop, and Yongbum keeps the punishment coming, given no chance to defend. With his face completely battered, Kwak Chol-woo begs for mercy and asks him to stop the attack. But the main character ignores the plea for mercy and continues the lesson without hesitating for 1 second. So Young and her friend watch the scene terrified and call Yongbum an absolute maniac. Fallen on the ground, Chol-woo can barely believe he was taken down in such a humiliating way. Yongbum steps on the enemy's chest, proving that the fight is finally ended with his victory. Gukyu then yells out, saying this is the perfect chance for Choi Yongbum to seize the moment. His friends bring over the desk and tell him to solve more questions since he is wide awake. With a small smile, the main character turns around and seems to agree with his friend's plan. The scene shifts to the front of the school, signaling that time has passed since the great battle. A little while later, Kwak Chol-woo slowly starts regaining consciousness in the school courtyard. Holding his head, he stands up and tries to make sense of what happened after he passed out. He touches his nose, which is bleeding, and remains completely lost with no memory of the event. Then he spots Yongbum spinning in the study chair and wonders what is up with that bizarre scene. The main character keeps spinning like a kid in an amusement park, looking pretty dizzy. Chol-woo does not understand why Yongbum is dizzy if he is the one who got beaten and knocked out. He stares at the scene and realizes this might be his big chance to stage a comeback. With a determined look, he stands up and says he is not giving up the fight that easily. A new hope lights up his eyes when he sees the weird condition of his great enemy. He watches Yongbum almost falling out of the chair from being so dizzy and confirms this is his chance. Kwak Chol, who gets a sense of déjà vu from that scene and gets really scared. He decides to strike one more time while the main character is dizzy and sprints toward him. The attacker loads up a punch with all his strength, aiming for Yongbum's face since he seems defenseless. But at the final second, the main character closes his eyes as if he were focusing on something. Yongbum then opens his eyes with a sharp, focused look, and time seems to stop around him. The scene repeats itself and Yongbum once again starts spinning in his chair at high speed. Chol Woo gets dizzy just looking at it and cannot comprehend what is happening right in front of him. The main character stops spinning and takes a deep breath, looking relieved after his dizziness passes. With a smile and soap bubbles coming out of his mouth, he cheers, saying he is finally done. His friends congratulate him on a job well done while Yongbum thinks he almost passed out from spinning so much. But Kwak Chol Woo stands up and yells that the fight is not over yet and he is not going anywhere. He tries to charge, but his legs give out and he falls to his knees, completely drained of strength. The boy does not understand why his body will not move and gets desperate about the situation. With a battered face full of anger, he wonders if he really got defeated so shamefully. While Yongbum's group walks away, he watches Gook, leaving and calls out to her in a low voice. Desperate, he screams the girl's name again, trying to catch her attention from afar. Kwak Chol Woo then yells asking why Yongbum gets a chance with her, but he does not. Gook stops walking, and her face turns somber hearing the words of her former tormentor. She turns around and, bathed in soft light, says she initially wanted to help him too. The tutor reveals she used to think guys like him could change if given a single chance. Chol Woo despairs and asks why she gave up on him if she really believed that. Gook lowers her head and says it did not matter how much she tried to teach and help him. She reveals he could not even read the basic alphabet, showing zero progress. Heartbroken, Kwak Chol Woo starts crying upon realizing he blew his chance. His cry of despair echoes through the school courtyard as the sun sets on the horizon. Choi Yongbum's group walks away from the fight scene, heading into the late afternoon. The model student comments that the whole situation was epic and seems impressed by what she saw. Gook then praises Yongbum, saying he did very well on the test they took. Back at Mile High, the students are celebrating the victory and Yongbum's success. One of the main character's friends is wearing sunglasses and blowing a party horn with tons of energy. Other classmates also celebrate the moment with dances and cheers of joy around the room. They throw a birthday party for Choi Yongbum with a cake and a party hat on his head. Suddenly, the classroom door opens, interrupting the party going on inside. Gook and the model student arrive, and the tutor asks if by any chance it is Yongbum's birthday. Jo Chumshin explains the party is because it is the first time the main character finished the questions. The model student is shocked by how weird that is, and Gook tells her to get used to it for her own good. The main character then stands up and calls out to Gook with a serious look on his face. The tutor feels awkward and tells him not to expect a thank you just for solving the questions. But Yongbum holds out his hand and, with a smile, asks her to give him a birthday present. Without a second thought, the girl pulls an envelope from her backpack and hands it to him angrily. He is surprised she actually prepared something, and his friend jokes asking if it is a property deed. Yongbum opens the envelope and sees it is just the answer sheet for the test he took the day before. Jo Chumshin, with his sunglasses on, seems to notice something odd on the papers his friend is holding. He takes off his glasses with a shocked expression and asks about the score on the paper. Yongbum's friend screams in shock and asks why his score on the test is so high. The other classmates are also surprised to see that he scored a 68 on the exam. Jo Chumshin panics and thinks the only explanation is that his friend cheated on the test. Yongbum gets annoyed by the accusation and punches his friend in the mouth, telling him to shut up. The model student asks if he did well because he had time, and Gook says that is not quite it. She reveals that he actually solved all the questions in just 2 hours of testing. The tutor explains that to finish it all, he should have run out of time completely. Jo Chumshin, sitting on the floor, asks how that is possible, and Gook gives her take on the matter. She says Yongbum might have an empty head, but his brain itself actually seems to be very good. His reading speed and comprehension are great, and he can guess words he does not know. Gook goes on to say he clearly sees what he needs to study to improve his grades. She then concludes that maybe a miracle really can happen for him if he keeps this up. A miracle with a 0.001% chance of happening, but still a chance. And that huge miracle would be Choi Yongbum finally getting into Seoul University. The main character's heart races hearing the possibility, and he looks at the girl with hope. His friends toss him up in the air to celebrate and ask him not to forget about them in the future. Yongbum then approaches Gook with an excited look and calls her over for a chat. The friends then toss the girl up in the air and thank her for taking such good care of their buddy. Annoyed and amidst the chaos, the tutor yells at them to put her down and stop the mess. The model student crashes the party and says it might be a little early to celebrate so much. She reminds everyone they still have the social studies grades to review. The friends think the grades must be low since they require memorizing, and Yongbum says he can learn it. But the model student says the problem is not how hard the subjects are for him to study. She reveals with a concerned look that the real problem is Choi Yong-bum's personal ideology. With a worried gaze, the model student watches Yong-bum's group of friends gathered at school. The main character stares back at her with a confused expression, not understanding the reason for all the worry. The group gathers in the school courtyard for another session of studying and fighting to keep Yong-bum awake. Jo Chung-shin is surprised he has not fallen asleep and thinks he is getting used to studying. The model student asks Guk-yu about the social studies grades, and she says they are still the same. The girl with glasses shows the tests and reveals he got a 2 in society and a 0 in ethics and beliefs. The friends are shocked by the grades and think the test questions must be wrong somehow. The model student then states that the biggest problem becomes clear when you look at the answers he picked. Guk-yo explains that no matter the question, he always picks the answers that support a single ideology. The student with glasses concludes that instead of answering, he just picked the options he agreed with. She then adds that based on how he answers, Yong-bum seems to want to become a huge dictator. The main character asks what a dictator is, and Jo Chun-shin explains it is a tough guy who does whatever he wants. Yong-bum thinks it is a great idea, but his friend says it might not be so great for other people. The boy then states that to avoid that, people just need to not get beaten and win their own battles. The girls wonder how he ended up like this, and Guk-yu says it is because he lived like a king. The model student gets an idea and says that to fix this, they need to improve the school environment. With a confident smile, she gets ready to unveil her big plan to help Choi Yong-bum. She suggests creating an environment where the main character cannot just do everything he wants. Jo Chung-shin gets upset at the idea and says there is nothing in the world Yong-bum cannot do. The main character signals his friend to stop talking and stares at him with a serious look. He asks how they would do that, and the girl says she knows an expert in the field who can help. The student with glasses reveals this person is her ethics and beliefs mentor and that she can help out. Yong-bum is confused and wonders who would be a mentor to a model student like her. The scene shifts to a clear blue sky, hinting that a new character is about to show up. In the teacher's lounge, an orange-haired guy looks out the window with a curious expression. He wonders what is going on in the courtyard and why there are so many people gathered there. Someone explains that Yong-bum is studying, and the guy is shocked to hear the unexpected news. The other teachers panic and think the world is ending because of this. The orange-haired teacher smiles and says there is no way the main character is actually studying. He refuses to believe the story and claims the Yong-bum he knows would never do such a thing. Somewhere else in an apartment building, a somewhat different scene is taking place. On a bedroom door, a sign says "Do not enter," and laughs can be heard from inside. A woman with glasses and black hair is lying in bed reading a magazine and finding everything very funny. She eats a snack while relaxing and enjoying her moment of peace and quiet at home. With a smile on her face, she seems to be really enjoying the story she is reading in the magazine. The young woman then says she prefers something slightly more stimulating than just reading. Right then, her phone starts ringing and the name, Little Bro, pops up on the screen. The contact photo shows her holding the orange-haired teacher in an arm lock. The scene shifts to an image of 2 tall buildings on a sunny day in the big city. The group of friends arrives at a building, and the main character notices something feels different in the air. The group arrives in front of an apartment, and Yong-bum wonders if it is the model student's house. He gets nervous because it is his first time at a girl's house, and she complains about a flyer on the door. Jo Chung-shin jokes that he is very good at ruining the mood, and Guk-yu sighs at his attitude. The main character asks why they went there, and the girl with glasses says it is to hire a tutor. She then reveals with a smile that the master she mentioned earlier is actually her older sister. Choi Yong-bum and his friend are totally shocked by their classmate's unexpected revelation. The model student opens the door to her house and prepares to introduce her sister to the group. She calls out to her sister, and they all step into the apartment to meet Yong-bum's new tutor. As soon as they enter, they see a woman falling off the couch and complaining about a bad hangover. The dark-haired woman is lying on the couch and seems to be suffering the effects of drinking. She introduces herself as Musayan, the model student's older sister, and asks for a glass of water. Jo Chung-shin instantly falls in love with the woman's beauty, and his face turns bright red right away. The younger sister argues with Sae-yan and asks her to dress decently to welcome the guests. Mo-sae-yan complains about her little sister and says she already has a headache from all the talking. With a serious look, she says that if her sister wants a favor, she has to play by her rules. In a quick move, she snatches the glasses right off her younger sister's face, leaving her defenseless. Choi Yong-bum and his friend are shocked to see the scene and watch the girl's reaction. The model student panics and screams desperately, unable to see anything without her glasses. Without the glasses, the girl's appearance completely changes, and she turns out to be very pretty. She asks for her glasses back, but Si-yan says she bought contact lenses for her to wear. The student with glasses trips and falls into her sister's arms, who catches her firmly. The younger sister struggles and complains about the situation while the older one watches her closely. Annoyed by her sister, the girl complains about how irritating she is and holds her tightly in her arms. Musae-yan smiles and says she finally looks like a real human being without the glasses. Jo Chungshin blushes and is speechless seeing the beauty of the two sisters together in front of him. He then puts on the girl's glasses and jokes, saying he cannot see anything with them either. Choi Yongbum gets annoyed by the joke and punches his friend, telling him to knock it off. Back to the living room where the group is gathered to discuss the future of Yongbum's studies. The model student offers her sister a drink while the guys watch their conversation. Mosi Yin asks if they want her to fix the guy's attitude, and they beg for her help. She asks if they are rich and why she should help a bunch of broke students. Yongbum yells he does not have a single penny, and Jo Chungshin notes he has a weak spot for older women. Sayan turns down the offer, and the sister calls her jobless, but she claims she is just a resting youth. The older sister tells the younger one to worry about her own grades and stop being so nosy. The girl with glasses then glares at her sister and tells her to remember her own words carefully. She quotes Nietzsche, saying life is a solo journey and everyone is on their own. The student pauses and gets ready to use her sister's own words against her. She reminds her that her sister said uncalculated kindness boosts her faith in humanity and life. Sai Yan remembers their mother saying it was her job to handle the younger sister's attitude. Jo Chungshin notes that the model student is way more active and wonders if it is because she is not wearing glasses. Guk Yu and Jo Chungshin watch the sisters argue without understanding anything about what is going on. The main character's friend gets tense and wonders what they should do in that situation. Yongbum worries that they do not find a tutor. His social studies grades will never improve. The boy stays quiet with a serious look as he thinks of a solution to the problem. He then turns to Mu Sayan and asks if her problem is about getting a job. With a confident smile, Yongbum says that if that is the case, he can fix it for her. The woman is surprised by the guy's unexpected offer and stares at him with a lot of curiosity. The scene changes and shows the front of Imbail High on a sunny and calm day in the city. Musa Yan, now dressed in formal clothes, walks down the school hallway in her heels. She stamps a document and cheers that their crazy plan actually worked out in the end. With a victorious smile, the new teacher faces the class and seems satisfied with the outcome. Her younger sister is shocked and asks how she became a temp teacher out of nowhere. Sayan explains she graduated from a teaching college and is smarter than she looks. The model student questions the procedures, but Jo Chungshin ensures they handled everything. In a flashback, the school principal yells he cannot just hire a new teacher out of nowhere. Yongbum threatens him with a dark look and asks if that really sounded like a simple request. He shows a folder with embarrassing photos and says he would hate to make that public. Back in the present, Yongbum and his friends smile, satisfied with the success of their blackmail. The main character then sits down and asks if they can finally fix his attitude now. The new teacher says thanks and Yongbum asks what they should do first in A's class. Musa Yan breaks into a huge smile and says that before anything else they need a lesson. Holding a piece of wood, she orders the boy to get into push-up position on the floor. Jo Chungshin panics, thinking he will have to console his friend for at least 2 hours. The teacher thinks her attitude changed pretty fast and calls herself a true ninite. She then calls out to Yongbum, who is on the floor, not understanding what is happening there. The woman explains that the goal of the lesson is to learn to find value and correctness in things. She states that to fix his attitude, he first needs to learn to understand others. The main character lowers his head and listens to her words, knowing it will be a tough path. The teacher reminds him he promised to do it, so he needs to endure the training. With a yell of determination, Yongbum says he is counting on her help to get through it. Mosi Yin smiles at the answer and says they first need to learn a basic lesson. She then gets ready to teach a lesson on how to use more polite and formal language. Jo Chungshin desperately screams his friend's name, seeing the scene that is about to happen. The teacher's strike lands squarely on the back of someone who stepped in front of Yongbum. The main character is shocked to see someone else took the hit meant for him. Jo Chungshin stares at the newcomer with wide eyes and expression of total surprise. He recognizes the guy and calls him loyal follower number 2, Kim Min-chul, who has just arrived.